So we've got to the point of the tutorial where I'm sitting with the legend Pete Turner. Pete,
thank you for having me on.
Mate, I'm so blown away. I mean, yeah, I'm sitting here with, and I've said this openly, the greatest living mentalist in the world today.
Thank you.
You are. I'm not blowing smoke up your arse, you really are. And I'm so glad that you and I are going to be sitting here talking about this, the inspiration deck.
I got it through the post. I mean, we talked about it in the session, and then I got it through the post, and I was blown away about all the different intricacies and secrets that you've built into it. I think it's a wonderful product. So
I wanted it to be like a tool, so that anybody who gets it, whether they do magic or mentalism, there's so much stuff built into this. You could have literally so many different ways of performing it. Different performers could use it in different ways. And what I wanted this to be was like almost like a session between you and me, talking about various different things that you can do with this.
I'm happy. I'll let you lead, and then I'll just jump in and interject at certain places.
We've already spoken to everyone about what the deck is, so they know about all of the features. They know about everything. They know about it's stacked, it's marked. They know about the long words on the quotes, the stupid principle in the names, the Quran principle. They know all about that. I thought what we'd do before we get into how you can use the deck. I know you've got a couple of really great ideas for these, the two gaff cards that comes with it.
Yeah, well, I just had a quick look at this, and this one's a really interesting one. And the reason that this card's really interesting, if you don't know what this card is, it's basically the indecision card, but all the letters are mixed up on there. So it almost allows you the ability to perform a 100th monkey type effect without the 100th monkey.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to go for a bit of a tangent on how you can do this if you wanted to follow up with this, or you wanted to lead in with playing cards, and then jump into this if somebody asks you to repeat the performance.
Perfect.
So I have this really cool thing that I designed a number of years ago, and some playing cards, some decks come with a blank card that's inside the case, right?
Yeah.
And that card can be used for a billet, but what I always do is always keep it in and get rid of the jokers. So I leave the jokers in and make a point of taking the jokers out, and maybe the game card or whatever extra bits of stuff's inside the deck. And this is the line that I use, and you're going to use a very similar performance to it when you're performing with this. So let's say that I had that blank card, and I said, now Craig, what's interesting about people is when you ask them to hold a secret, the more you tell them that it's private, the more they want to give away what it is.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of the time it's their body that's giving it away, and they want to scream what that secret is from the top of their lungs. And every time they meet somebody they feel they can trust, in the back of their head somewhere there's a little voice that's saying, go on, tell them. Right? Now in a moment you're going to pick a card. When you take one, you're going to put it straight to your chest. You're not going to look at it.
Okay.
Right? You're not going to look at it until I look away. But when you do look at it, something in you is going to want to give away what this is. No matter what it is, you mustn't say anything. You mustn't give anything away. Right? Okay. So I'm going to look away, you take one. Now I use whatever force I want, and I force you that blank card. The blank card goes to your chest, and then I say, I'm going to have a look away, have a look at it. So you've looked at it, and then I just let you put it back in wherever you want. Now, the reason for that script is so specific is because what you're saying is, I don't want you to say what it is, no matter what it is. Because the problem is when you're performing on a lot of people, if they see a blank card, they go, oh, you've given me one that's, oh, you've given me a blank card. And that's what you're going to run into with this.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, you've given me one that don't make any sense. And sometimes they want to tell you because they think you've made a mistake and they don't want you to look foolish.
Yeah.
Right? So going back to the playing cards, and we will get back to how we tie that performance into this. When you've got that playing card and it's gone back inside the deck, I say, no, if I were to try to guess what that card is, you'd probably think it'd be impossible, right? It'd be unlikely that I could tell you what it is. And the interesting thing there is you go, well, it's blank, so he's never going to be able to tell me what it is, right? So I set a really high expectation. And so now I say, okay, well, let me take a guess. Is it the 6 of clubs? No. Is it the 3 of diamonds? No. But you definitely know what you picked. And then as soon as you say yes, you've now solidified the fact that you know you picked a playing card of a value on it. Even though you didn't, right? There's a linguistic subtlety there, sleight of mouth, that's allowing the audience to perceive the fact that you're now thinking of a playing card that has a value. Because if you didn't, you'd say, no, I don't really know what I picked. But every time people say, no, I know what I picked. And then you say, right, and now I start to talk about the psychology of door frames. Now this again ties into this. The idea that everybody's walked into a room and completely forgot what they went in there for. And it's happened to every one of us in our life at some point. So I draw an imaginary door frame in the air and I ask them to imagine them being on their side in a room that makes them feel comfortable. So they're surrounded by a menagerie of different objects that make them feel that sense of comfort. Now these might be things that they find in their house or a house that makes them feel relaxed. But what's interesting is they peer beyond the door frame into the room that I'm standing in. They see a series of articles they don't recognise, things that make them feel a slight sense of unease, a little bit uneasy. I take their hand and I invite them to walk through the door frame, and then I look right in their eyes for a few seconds and I pause. Now, one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got was from Richard Bush. Whenever you think that the moment's taken too long, wait one extra beat. And what he always told me was dare to make them wait. And that's the same here. You're looking here, you don't say anything, you're staring, you sit back, touch their arm, try tell me the suit of the playing card you're thinking of. So then what happens is it's going to imply that they know exactly what they picked, which is a really beautiful moment, because to everybody else that's watching this, there must be some detail on the card. Right? It's not just a blank card. And at the same time, once that moment's taken place, you're home and dry. In fact, we're at the door frame. So inside my room, they're peering through the door frame into my room at things that make them feel uneasy. A series of articles that they don't recognise. And then I reach my hand out and I bring them through the door. Now, usually I do some sort of induction process, some pseudo-induction, and I will share a couple of those when we get to the end of this. But I make it look like I've put them into this trance. Now, the idea is you've got to use hypnotic language. Whether you're going to be doing hypnosis or not, if you're ever doing a hypno-style effect, which this is, you want to make it feel genuine. And there's nothing worse than just watching somebody go, and now you can't say what's on the card. You know, it just looks fake. You need to make it feel like it's real. So what I'd recommend is just going on YouTube, just watching a couple of hypnotists do their thing. You're not going to be hypnotizing people in this, I must stress that. But what you're going to do is replicate the way that they speak, the way they repeat things, the way they talk about things. And then when you ask them to open their eyes, you look in their eyes, stare them right in the face, and you say, try tell me the suit of the playing card. Now, of course, if you say to them, what's the card you picked? They're going to go blank one. Whereas if you say, try tell me the suit, they go, well, how am I supposed to answer that question? And that confusion in their face is what sells the effect that they're genuinely experiencing a sense of amnesia, right? And then you push a little bit harder and you say, it's really interesting because you know you're supposed to be answering something, but you're not quite sure on how to answer that question, right? And the harder you think about it, the harder it becomes. Try tell me the suit. And a lot of the time they'll give up and go, I can't. And you go, all right, okay, let's take a step back. Imagine the card floating in the air for me, right? Imagine the card floating in the air. And as you see that detail that's on the card start to warp and distort, try tell me the value of the card. And then you go through that entire process. And now I add one little touch on the end where I say, it's really, really interesting the way that your brain works, because the more you think about it, the more your mind just goes completely blank. And then I get a little smile there because they're thinking, well, how did he know it were a blank card, right? But then I go, and if anybody ever asks you, you can't remember any detail on that card whatsoever from now until the end of time. And then you just sit back and then just let that moment breathe. And if anybody does ask them and say there were nothing on the card, then you're going to get an elated reaction at the end, right? Now with this, it's a very similar framework. The framework's going to be the exact same.
Okay.
But the way that you pick this person is very, very important.
All right.
So what you want to do is you want to pick somebody that feels that their decision-making ability is not as on par as it usually would be.
Okay.
Right. So somebody who is, because this card is obviously indecision, right?
Yeah.
Which is somebody who struggles to make decisions, right? And you find that person, and you say, right.
And how would you suggest finding them?
Well, you just ask. So you don't,
is anyone here who
is there
sometimes
anybody
struggles?
I mean, the beauty about mentalism as opposed to magic is magic you're going to dive straight in and start performing, and you're going to jump straight into these visual elements really quickly. Mentalism, when it's performed well, it's almost a little bit like hooking somebody up to a polygraph. The idea is that to know how somebody thinks, you've got to take a baseline. You've got to understand the way that that person thinks. And the beauty of framing mentalism up like that, if you put what you particularly think is quite chancy right at the beginning, what happens is if you fail at the beginning in the first couple of things, or you're just close, or you're just slightly off, or there's 1 degree out, what's really nice about that is the person doesn't go, oh, I failed. What the person does is says, oh, he's figuring out the way I think. So it gives you a nice get out of jail free card in these moments, you know, like if you're going to place the things that you're going to do, and later on. Now, we are going to talk about Out of This World, and I see this as a perfect bridge or an introduction to Out of This World.
Yeah.
Because for somebody who's indecisive, showing them that their decision-making ability is impeccable is a perfect metaphorical example of a good mentalism routine that's tied to emotion, right? So what you do is you start out with this card. Now, how you force this card is entirely up to you. You can use the cross-cut force.
On the project, we're going to have a toolbox with a couple of different
Okay.
forces and different other moves that you can use with the card. So.
Sleep down. In a moment, mate, you're going to wake up. You're going to wake up, and I'm going to give you a card. In a moment, I'm going to give you a card. And when you look at that card, what's really interesting is you're not going to be able to differentiate what the card says. It's going to be in plain English, but the thing is that you're going to look at it and you're going to say to yourself, I don't really recognise what this card is or what it says. And the interesting thing is that everybody else in the room is going to know exactly what it is. So when I count from 1 to 3, you're going to open your eyes, I'll help you up. So when I count from 1 to 3, 1, 2, 3, open your eyes, come back up, give me a hand. Perfect, you stand up, you're alright.
Yep.
So everybody's watching this, right? Now if this doesn't work, it doesn't matter, but I put you in what I think is an interesting position. So whenever you want, just say stop.
Stop.
Take it, put it to your chest, don't look at it.
Okay.
You're going to look at this, right? You're going to look at it, and when you look at it, like I said, something in your brain's going to tell you it doesn't make sense. So take a look at what it says.
Right.
Think about the quote on there.
Okay.
I said, look at the bold letters, the bold ones.
Yeah.
Look at the camera for a second.
Right.
Try tell the camera what this word says.
Try
them
tell the camera what it says.
what the bold word is.
I can't. It's
Try say it.
Nicodemus, but not really. Nothing like it. But there's an N and a C.
Is there an I in there?
Yeah.
And an N?
And an N.
Is there a D in there somewhere?
Yeah.
Try tell them what it says.
I can't get it. It's just.
Can I show you it?
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Right. Okay. Okay.
It's really fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Genuinely, you weren't seeing that.
No.
You're seeing something with those letters,
Yeah.
but your brain would tell you it's something else.
Completely. Yeah.
Thank you for playing.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers.
Give him a round of applause. Fucking hell. So I don't know how many cards are here, but what I do is there's probably about 25. I think it's 25.
It's 26. 27
cards.
with that gaff card I did.
Okay. So I'd state there's 30 cards.
The box actually says 30 cards on it,
Okay.
even though it's not. So yeah,
So
the new box.
so I'd say okay. So there's about 30 cards here, and I need to ensure that you arrive at one at complete random. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of a number from 1 to 30, right? When you think of this number from 1 to 30, feel free to change your mind a few times and settle on one that you don't feel like I could just guess.
Okay.
Okay, so what number are you thinking of?
12.
12. So you take these. I want to see how good your decision-making ability is. Just deal these down face down one at a time.
Counting to 12.
Yeah, go for it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Stop a second, it's going to take all day. Just grab to 12 and dump them there.
Okay, like that?
Yeah, and drop them down.
Yeah.
So what that does is that's a staggered cross cut, right?
That's great.
So it gives us the card that we need to get to,
Yeah.
right? So what you're doing is, let me show you how this would work. So, and I'm going to reverse count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'll reverse count these,
Yeah.
just so that we know that they're in the right order.
Yeah.
Now this would be the very top one, right? Just so
Yeah,
we're sure.
yeah.
Okay. So you're taking a card. So you're taking, let's say 1, 2, and let's say we place this card. I always place it at 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That time I placed it at 7, but I noticed the marking. So it saved me as soon as I'd seen that card go down. I was like, oh, I've miscounted here. So that's the beauty with this, because you can fail safe yourself. But I place it in the 8th position like this.
Yep.
This would go here. And you get them to name a number. So let's say they name 26.
Okay.
As they're dealing these, you can even get them to deal them face up if you wanted to, so that they can see that they're all different, but they deal them 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You stop them and say, look, this is going to take all day. Just cut to get to the number that you thought of. So they cut. And of course, then they're going to be forcing themselves this card.
That's great.
The indecision card.
That's awesome.
It's just a nice way to hide it's just a nice way. 4, 5, 6, 7. It's just a nice way to hide that moment, I think.
That's
right?
great.
So they now arrive at this. Now, what you've got to make sure is that the actual indecision card is one card below that. So are you following me?
Yep.
So this is the one that they're going to get is the one where the letters are mixed up, right?
Well, the indecision card in the stack is I, which is the 9th card down.
Okay.
So if that's at 8,
it's perfect.
it's like going to be that it's the 9th card down, 9th letter of the alphabet.
And there you go. Things are just meant to happen for a reason. So now they've arrived at this, and you say, right, you're going to put it to your chest. Now, something in you is going to want to tell me what this card is. It's going to want to tell you what it is. And what I'm doing is I'm just getting inside your head so I can see how you think. And then we're going to put your decision-making abilities to the test. So now they put this card to the chest. You get them to look at it. And they go like this. And now you say, okay, try read it. And they can't read it, right? And you say, try read the name of the celebrity that's on there.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Right, and they're there, I can't. But what you want to do is you want to top change out and place it there and say, I'm going to let you keep hold of that for a second because we're going to test again how you manage to do this after we've been through this process. Now they're going to lift it up and they'll be able to read it.
Yeah.
So it's a very simple version of 100th Monkey. There's a very interesting thing that you can do there as well, is that if you take somebody that's, this is something that's very, very old, and it's an old technique that predates all of us, but the faith healers were really interesting people because what they do is that they take people at the side of the stage and on the way in, they'd find somebody that like had a bad back but were walking perfect, right? And they'd say to that person, excuse me, have you come to have your back healed? And that person would say yes. And they'd say, okay, I'm getting a sense, have you ever been in an accident in your life years and years and years ago, maybe not relatable or so you think to the back injury? And they go, yeah, well, we're in a car crash. And they say, okay, well, I don't want you to be uncomfortable, so can we just have a wheelchair? And then they'd wheel a wheelchair in and then they'd sit the person down, right? And then they'd wheel that person to the front of the stage. And they'd say, when I ask you about that injury later on, that car accident, I want you to talk about how it psychologically made you feel, because I feel that's what this is. And the more that you can ham this up and the more you could tell me how much trauma you went through, you're letting it off your chest and I'll be able to heal you, right? So now what would happen is they'd do a few of these healings and they'd come out on stage and they'd go, there's somebody here in the front row that were in a horrific car crash. Who were in the car crash at the front row? So this woman puts her hands up, right? And they go, can we wheel this lady onto the stage? So now people see this lady being wheeled on and assume that she can't walk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And now they say, I'm going to put you through this and tell me what the pain is now. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much pain are you experiencing now? And as soon as this person said, it's a 3, it's a 2, would you be confident standing up for us in front of everybody? And the person goes, yeah, okay, stand up. And now everybody starts clapping. And the faith healer turns to the audience and says, no, don't clap. We need to concentrate. So they'd kill the clap and then they'd guide the person and then they'd let go of the hands and they'd take a few steps on their own. This person could walk anywhere, but everybody now just assumed that this person could literally make somebody walk.
Wow.
Right? And now this sort of similar thing can be done. So if you take somebody that can, and you get them to take their glasses off, right, and you ask them to read this piece of, so with their glasses on, you ask them, they take it off and they read this piece of card, right, and you say, can you read that? Right, so if you had your glasses off, could you? I mean, I know you might be able to see, but can you read that anyway?
No, it's impossible to read.
Right, because it's the card that's mixed up.
Yeah.
But now switch in the one that actually has the indecision.
That's genius.
And now you can make it seem like you've just made somebody be able to see.
I love that. That's
do you know what I
brilliant.
mean? It's a very old concept, and I'm 100% sure that other people have touched upon it. But,
That's great.
But there's brilliant ways to use this concept, right?
That's really good.
And then, of course, that person's experiencing the miracle, and everybody else experiences a bigger miracle where that person can suddenly see for the first time or can see a lot clearer than they did. So, instead of it being like a mismatch of vision, they've now got closer to 20/20 vision, which I think is a really interesting little thing. I do love that. And then the other card, so I will explain what this one is. This one's got a very tiny box in it. So it's got a very tiny box and it says anxiety. And now, what you do whenever you're eliciting any type of routine that utilizes fears, the idea is that when you're looking from that fear from a perspective, from the outside looking in, it becomes a lot easier to fix.
Yeah.
Right? So what I'd do is I'd say to somebody, right, this is what we're going to do. And I'd probably tie this in with a billet.
Okay.
Now, I have a really interesting way to, if I'm going to do a centre tear, I have a really interesting way to get somebody to write in the middle of the billet.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do is I take, it could be a post-it note, whatever you want, and you draw a big circle in the middle where you need the information to go.
Yeah.
And now you draw a spider diagram around the sides, and you draw bigger and smaller circles.
Mm-hmm.
And now you give, or ovals, and then you give them a pen. And you say, you're going to fill out this spider diagram. But what you're going to do is place your biggest fear in the middle, and if the fears are smaller, put them into the smaller ovals, and the smaller the fear is, the smaller you place it into the smaller, spaces. But now when they fold it up, their biggest fear is right in the middle of where it gets torn to read. Mm. So now I know that their biggest fear, their greatest fear is, say, spiders, right? Or it might be the fear of public speaking, whatever. But now I use the same thing, right? I take the card that the square that has the big anxiety box on it, and I let them read it, right? Mm. And now I top change it, and I say, right, now that card is a metaphorical representation of how great your anxiety is for this particular situation, right? That's going to stay in front of you there. I'm not going to move it. But what I want you to do is imagine looking at this problem from the outside, and in your head, take however big this problem is and shrink it right down. Imagine it shrinking right down to the point that you can see it and it's no longer as intimidating as it first was. But really take your time to do this. Every single element of it, just imagine shrinking it right down. And then I want you to pick that card that says anxiety back up. And I want you just to tell me how big your anxieties are now when you're looking at that. How big's the anxiety?
Tiny.
And you can 100% see a big difference.
Yes.
So I'm using that now as the metaphor, because it is shrunk, and you'll probably react, right?
Yeah.
So now what I do is I say, this is what I want you to do. I want you to just take that problem. Have you ever heard the expression, a problem shared is a problem halved?
Yes.
And I want you to give me that last bit of anxiety. So imagine you packed it up into a little tablet or a pill, and you handed it to me, and now I take it and I take a drink of water, and I just look at them and say, you have absolutely no reason to be scared of spiders anymore. So now,
how strong is that?
It's cool, isn't it? And you're using this little anxiety card as the lead into that. I like if you've got my masterclass series, you'll see that I published that centre tear, not with a spider diagram, but the centre tear with the shrinking of the problem and that idea of taking the pill and swallowing it down. Now, just for credit, years and years ago, I saw a television show by Paul Daniels, and he got a kid that were really nervous on stage, and then he said, "Look, here's some confidence." And he made him swallow it and take a drink of water, and then the kid were confident. And I thought, what an interesting thing that to this kid, this moment, that were a bigger effect to me than the trick that was performed using the kid, right? But have you got any questions about any of that?
No, I mean, that makes total sense. I mean, what would you use a double lift to switch? You're going to be showing the big
just
one
a double turnover. You just literally place this on the top. You place the anxiety 1 second.
The nice thing is the anxiety card in the stack is on top because it's A. So it's going to be there anyway. So you can have this in your pocket and just load it onto the deck whenever you want to.
I just put it on anyway. I mean, I know that it adds to it, but I'd leave those in. And then what I do is I'd probably, if it were me, I'd take a ballpoint pen and right in between the border, I mean, there is like 2 millimeter or a millimeter gap all the way around. And I'd just take a ballpoint pen and I'd mark the back of these two. So that if it ever comes to those, and I say, move some more to the bottom as well, or I'd know not to bring those to wherever I need to ensure that they're not going to be forced. Yeah. But then they can stay in there. I mean, the problem is when you start loading stuff from your pockets or taking stuff in or adding stuff out. Let's say, for example, and again, I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent, but I always say that you are not what you think you are. So if you think that you're a magician and you tell your audience you're a magician, if there's a woman that thinks that you're a con man and that you're a thief and that you're there to steal a handbag, the more you try to get into a personal space and show her something, the more she wants to get away, right? Yeah. If you tell somebody that you're not a psychic and they believe you are a psychic, the more you tell them that you're not, the harder they believe that you are. And if somebody is trying to catch you out, when you start bringing stuff out of your pocket, what's that you just added to this? What's this you just taken away? So when and I mean, you're not going to get that often, but it does happen. And the less you can take stuff away and add stuff to something, the better. They'd probably be best left in the box. Yeah. Because if you left them in the box and then you put them inside, they put the cards in there and then just put that down for a second, they're now added to it. Yeah. So what you do to do that, if you wanted them on the top of the stack, you turn them face up and you put them inside. and then you literally turn the deck face up, and then that's it, and you leave them there for a minute.
Yeah.
You go off and you do something that uses the one ahead, which I know we're going to touch upon in a second.
Yeah.
You can say, in fact, you know what, and then you can get them back out, and now you've loaded them on. If you want them on the bottom of the deck, you place them face down on the inside and just put your deck on top of them. But I'd definitely not, if it were me, try not to add stuff from the pocket, unless I were taking one of these and adding it to my pocket for something and then bringing it all through that.
Yeah.
So what I'm about to show you, I don't really know how it works. That's the honest thing. It's like, if I tell you there's a secret to this, there's not. But I think that everything in the world happens for a reason. Everything we see, everything we feel, everything we touch and understand happens for a specific reason that we can't quite quantify. Right? Craig, you've got your new deck with you. Can I borrow it?
Yeah.
So inside this deck there's 26 inspirational quotes. Some of these are black and white and some of these are in colour. Now, I don't want you to worry about anything to do with negative or positive emotions. We're just going to deal with the imagery. Do you know the order of this deck? Okay. 100%. Pinky promise you don't.
I don't.
Okay. I'm going to take one that's colour. And I'm going to take one that's black and white. And I'm going to try to get you to feel whether one's colour or black and white. Okay? So you take these, hold them face down. Now look at me. If you rush this, you'll get it wrong. So if you rush it, you'll 100% get this wrong. Look right in my eye there. Feel what colour or lack of colour you feel the first one is. What is it? Is it black or white or colour? Black and white. Have a look at it, see if you're right. Okay, so we place this face down there. Now I'm not pushing that on you. You felt that. Take your time, look at me. Feel what you think the next one is. Don't say it, but look at me. Don't say it. You're wrong. You're wrong. Face down, place the next one where you think it should go. That's fair. Look, okay, it's black and white again. Right? But you didn't say anything to me. Now, if you think it's black and white, you place it here. If you think it's colour, you place it here. But take your time. Put your hands over the top. Go for it. Whew. What's making you make your decisions? Feelings. Good. Keep going. Stop a second. We're going to deal a few more. We'll clean these up a little bit. We're going to deal a few more. And whenever you feel like saying to me the word now, whenever you feel like saying now, well, imagine this is black and white and this is colour. So deal a few more and then say to me, now. I don't know why I get that feeling, but now. Go for it.
Now.
Did I not touch you the exact moment he said now? I tapped you there, right? So without looking at it, it doesn't matter to anybody else. Is this black and white or colour? Colour. Colour. But now we imagine this going here. There. Right? What I want you to do is deal them. Now imagine this is colour, this is black and white. So go for it. Now think about this. Now I'm not controlling this. I'm letting him feel what he feels. I'm not touching anything. I'm letting him do whatever he feels. What colour's the last card in your hand without looking? That's cool. Okay, keep going. You think this one is colour. So now we swap, so you imagine it there. Now I'm going to ask you a simple question. Did you count these as you went down? You weren't counting them. Now look, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. But I didn't control when you said now. Right? I didn't control that. Can I ask you a really serious question, and don't lie for me? What made you decide what meant to belong where? 100% feeling. What made you decide to say now the moment you said now?
Again, just had that feeling to say no.
And have I done anything with these cards? You took them. I spread them out at the beginning, showed you they were all random. Right at the beginning, I spread them. You remember me. When you remember me showing you, when you remember me showing you that, right? This is the bit that blows me away, you see. You felt these were black and white. Black and white. And I didn't touch anything. Black and white. All the way down until you said to me, Pete, now. And you changed your mind. You made every single one of these colour. Right down to the very last one. But if you react right now, then that's only half a packet. You see, I felt that these ones were colour. All the way down until you said to me, you know what, Pete, I feel like changing right about now. And the moment you said the word now, the moment you felt to yourself, because I wasn't forcing this, these were black and white. Every single decision that you made were absolutely perfect. It's not about seeing with your eyes, it's about feeling and knowing. And I want to thank you for being absolutely perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was class. That was proper nice.
I want to show you a bit of a routine that I'm sort of... There is a model for this, but I'm sort of making it up as I go along because I've never done it with these cards before.
Okay.
And I noticed this when I was looking through the little explanation video that you sent me, and after going through the deck, I know you just sorted these out, and I'm going to.
Oh, they're not sorted yet. They're mixed up. I would want to point out to people actually very quickly before you say this. Although the deck is designed to be in a stacked order, and the backs of the cards will cue you what the next card is in the stack, the thing you need to remember is this can actually be used as a shuffled deck as well. Because if they're shuffled and they're mixed up, and we're going to be going through things that you can do when they're shuffled, you still have the ability to look at what that card is. You can look, the markings will tell you what the image is on the cards, it'll tell you what the actual emotion is. So these cards don't have to be stacked, they can be mixed up, and you can do some really cool direct stuff without them being in stacked order, which I think is important because a lot of the time, the thing that a lot of magicians especially are most nervous about when they're using stacks is what happens if the spectator wants to shuffle, or what happens if you drop them on the table or something. Well, if that's the case with these, it's totally not an issue, because if they mix them up, you've still got a ton of stuff you can do with them because of the markings on the back. So yeah, it's not a problem that these are shuffled at all.
Well, that's it, and I think there's something interesting to be said about the fact that, again, these can be used if you just wanted to throw them in your case and then just be done with it. The last
one is the ocean.
Is the ocean. Okay.
A couple of different.
So, and I'll show you again. Like I said, I'm sort of just free-forming this. It's,
yeah, that's fine.
There's no real. That's
an ocean. That's an ocean as well.
Okay, that'll do. I sort of wanted to go through and match the colours as well, so that you can see that sort of colour match, if you will. What you're going to notice is that there is a series. I'll perform it exactly how I'd perform it if I were going to perform this. So, Craig, when you're looking down at these, you'll notice that even though the images are different, these images share certain commonalities. For example, they're in colour and they're black and white. They're in colour, they're black and white, and they're in colour.
Yeah.
But if you look at the details of the image, you can see that this is a body of water or a bed of water. And whilst this is water, this is a waterfall.
Yeah.
These two images, they match.
Yeah.
These two images have flowers in, they match. These two images are of a tree. And this is a sunset or a sunrise, depending on your perspective, right? Which I think this one's the most interesting one, because depending if you're a morning person or you prefer the afternoon, you'll decide whether it's sunset or sunrise. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to pick those cards up for me, so just yours on this side.
Okay.
And I want you to mix them up. Now you've got to make me a promise. I'm going to place mine face down. You're not going to look at the markings.
Okay.
Right. So you're going to look at me. Turn them toward yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take one out and I'm going to place it face down there. What I want you to do is you're going to place yours face up, but I'm going to take my time to transmit to you which one that I've placed face down. So take your time. What's your brain telling you right now? Now, chances are you'll probably be wrong, but what's your brain telling you?
Which image?
Yes.
Flower.
So then place that face up there. Now, is that an entirely fair choice?
Yes.
Well, look, it's not, right? Because I went for the flower as well. Right? So.
Okay.
But it's interesting how your brain can do that. Right?
Yeah.
And you genuinely didn't look at the marking.
Not genuinely.
So pick your flower back up and then mix them up, and we'll do this again, right? So as you're looking through them, take your time. Now look, this time what I want you to do is I want you to think of one, and then I'm going to get you to change your mind. So what's your brain telling you right now?
The ocean.
The ocean. Okay, so you thought one and then changed to the ocean. So
Yes.
place that face up there. The ocean.
Yes.
Okay, so I went for the ocean as well, right? You can see that 100%. I'm doing this just off the top of my head as it goes. It's cool, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you want to keep playing?
Yes, I do.
Should we do a few in a row?
Okay, yes.
So have a look over them. Take one and place it face up there. Okay. I said we'll do a couple of these. So take another one and place it face up there. We'll just put it on top of that one like this. Okay. Now it's not about influencing you. It's more about reading the situation and knowing what you're going to do before you do it. So go through and then place one face up there. I'm hoping when we're left with just one, you'll see how incredible this is. So we're doing it in reverse this time, by the way.
Okay.
We're left with just one.
Yes.
Well, you're left with the flower.
Flower.
The bit that I find really interesting about this, if you look at it, you take it, you can see that I went for the sunset. I'll do this at absolute fingertips. The body of water, the tree, leaving the waterfall.
That's ridiculous, Pete. That's ridiculous.
It's cool, isn't it?
That's ridiculous.
So
That's amazing.
Should we jump into how it works?
Yeah, I mean, I don't fully know what you did there, but I mean, what I love about this is it feels like a bit like an ESP matchup routine,
That's exactly what it
but
is.
using the images and even the emotive words on there, it makes it so much stronger because of the imagery. And I'm now not thinking of ESP symbols that nobody knows what
The
an
weird,
ESP is.
the weird
Yeah,
as hell.
this is something that people. This is brilliant, Pete. This is brilliant.
So, well, this routine was it's a very old thing. It came out in like 1928. The original version of it. Obviously, there's touches that are my own. I'm getting you to place them face up because what it allows me to do is 100% know without having to rely on my eyesight in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Although with the marks, if people wanted to, they could.
They could do it face down. Yeah, 100%. The turnover is slightly different.
Okay.
I will explain that. If you collect them up and mix them up for me,
Okay.
let's run through it bit by bit.
Okay.
Now, people are going to think that maybe that beginning bit you were in on it in some way.
I genuinely wasn't
right?
at all.
But there's what's really interesting about people, and I'm saying it as I'm not part of the human race. What's interesting about people is we fall into patterns even when we're trying not to, right? And so what I do is I put myself in your shoes. What do I think you're statistically most likely to go for? So in this situation, when I take one out and I place it face down, you take one, have a look across yours, take one and place it face up there. And the idea is to try to get a hit out of the gate, right? So that's the aim. And if you look, I got sunset as well.
This is ridiculous.
And there we go, right? So
how are you doing this? Like seriously?
So I just literally and it's not a trick. This is just what I'm trying to go for. What I feel is going to be statistically most likely, and I'm pretty good at it. I mean,
yeah, you are.
If we're doing this with cards, I can do 10 in a row with cards.
This is ridiculous.
But this is just the first time I've ever done it with these. But but it doesn't matter if I'm wrong. You can't get this wrong.
Okay.
Right? So I'll show you. You pick them up and mix them up again.
Yeah.
I'll show you what happens if you're going to get this wrong. Have a look across them. Now, I don't do anything.
Yeah.
I can tell you what your brain was going to do. Did you think I wouldn't change your mind?
Yes.
Did you go for the tree?
Yes.
Okay, put down the one that you changed to. Okay, so now in this scenario, this is not a match.
Okay.
Right, I've put down the waterfall.
Okay.
But I don't mind. And the reason I don't mind is because I look at you and I say, look, I did say we'd do a few. Right? So now what I do is I go across mine and I look at you for a second. And now I out-jog the flower and I place that there. So now let's say that you went for the waterfall, because this is the first permutation that could happen. So if you take out the waterfall and place it there, I'm going to readjust mine in a moment. Normally we'd be sat across from each other.
Yeah.
We're not in this scenario because we're filming, but what I do is I take my fingers and I do this. Watch this turnover. So they're there like this. All I do is that.
Oh, that's great.
It's just a turnover. So what you're doing, these are in the wrong order. You're literally going to take these, you just pick them up and you literally just turn them over. Flower and waterfall, and they'll sit exactly the same with the turnover.
That's great.
If you end up where you're in a position where it's 3 cards, so let's say that I'm there, I place this down the flower, and then I've placed down waterfall, but you've not. You placed another one down.
Okay, let's go with the ocean.
Okay, so now I know that this is not matching.
Yep.
In this scenario, I've pointed out the imagery at the beginning, right? So I can't try to force a match here. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking the ocean and I'm placing it down. So now let's say that you place the waterfall down, which closes the loop of the 3 cards.
Yep.
I now move these 3 off to the side. I move these 3 off to the side like this. And I say, okay, keep your eye on this, because this is the bit that's interesting. Before I put one down and it matched, the aim is for us to end up with the exact same card, right? So now I look at these and again try to think of what you'll statistically most likely place down, and then I separate, I put a break in between where the loop's closed, and I'll explain why in a moment.
Okay.
Right? So you go for it, so you take one. Okay, so this will go face up.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So, all right. So now I know these match, which is perfect.
And these are going to match as well.
And these are going to match, right? But look, you can make a really easy mistake here, right? This and it took me ages to realise this. But now what we do is I say, and I did say that the aim was to end up with the same card.
The same card, yeah.
Well, look. And so I show this and we get a match. Now I don't jump to this because this is the most powerful revelation of the lot of them. So what I do now is I collect these up, and as I collect these up, I kick out this one and I reach over and I go, look, and I'm turning from the bottom.
Yeah.
So that so this would go, so now these would be, one second, I've put these in the wrong order, but they would be one ahead, right? So
Yeah.
I'd come out like this and I'll just put the waterfall at the bottom so that we're in the wrong order. So now, when I take the bottom one and I turn it, it would be this. If you're working one ahead,
Yeah.
it has to be.
Yeah.
And then what I do is very carefully from the top, take this one and I separate that one like that. Now, this is the powerful moment. I pull this toward myself, readjust my grip on this, and I turn these 2 at the same time. Bang.
That's killer.
So the permutation might be different. You might end up with 2 at the beginning and 3 at the end. If you've got 2, just turn them over.
Yep.
If you get one hit, now 2, and then say, let's do all of them, and then do one run of all of them.
Got it.
Right? Which is really, really cool, because what you can do is, let's say that you've had somebody pick one of these, right? So you've had somebody pick one. Now, you remember earlier I talked about the polygraph and how you have to get inside somebody's head to know how they think.
Yeah.
Well, what you can do here is you can say, okay, we're going to play a little game that's going to allow me to get in sync with you. So you play this game, you nail it a few times, and you say, I think we're now in sync. Focus on what the emotion is you're thinking of. And now I take the rest of the deck, I bring it back in play, collect these up, go through, take out the one you're thinking of, and now I can nail it. And it looks like I've got that baseline of how you think.
Wow. So I'm going to share with you, Pete, one way that I love to use this deck, using like a one ahead type system. So you need the inspiration deck, and these can be shuffled. So if you want to, you can hand this out to the audience or the spectator to mix up. That's not a problem. And you're also going to need a post-it notepad. And on the other side, the sticky side of the post-it notepad, at the top on the sticky, you're going to take a pen or a Sharpie marker and you're going to write the word emotion. So you write the word emotion right there like that. That goes into your pocket, the pen goes into your pocket, and you're good to go. So you're going to start off by talking to the spectator about a memory. And you're going to ask them to think of a memory, a really vivid memory, something that they can picture in their head and they can remember a lot of the details about that memory. And most importantly, you want to think about how you felt during this memory. It might be a sad memory, it might be a happy memory. There's a range of different emotions that you might have felt. You then show these cards and you say, well, what you have here is you have so many different emotions over these cards. So what I want you to do is go through, find the card that most represents the emotion that you were feeling when you were doing this, and put it down on the table. Now, because of the marking system, just with a casual glance, I can see that you thought of wonder. So I'm now one ahead already. You're then just going to, you have them just put those on top. So there's no way that you could know what the emotion is. We'll get back to that a little bit later on. But right now, that's the emotion that you felt during the course of this memory. What you're then going to do is you're going to bring out the post-it notepad. You can say, let's see if we can, I'm going to see if I can pick up on some specifics about that memory. And the first thing I want you to think of is the name of one person who was there with you when this memory took place. Because normally most memories, it's not just you on your own, there's somebody else there with you as well. Is there somebody there with you?
Yes.
Fantastic. I'm going to write the word name here. And then what you do is at the top on the post-it notepad, you just write name. You say, I'm going to write the word name here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and pick up on the name of the person that's there with you, just the first name. Now, as you're saying this, you're just going to flip this over. Now, how you want to do that is completely up to you. I mean, I drop my hand to the side, but we can talk about other ways of doing that a little bit later on. But nobody's looking at this pad. You're looking at them. You're talking about, thinking about the person's name who's there. But by turning this over, you're now looking at the word emotion. And your hand, the back of your hand, is covering where it says name. So now I'm going to write here the emotion, which I know is wonder because I picked it earlier on. So I'm just going to write the word wonder here, just with it up towards me, like that. So you can see I wrote the word wonder. You don't show them what you've written. Instead, you just pull this off like this, and you roll it up into a ball, and you put it down onto the table. And you say, right, I think I've picked up on it. What was the name of the person who was there?
Richard.
Richard. Okay, fantastic. Now we're going to go further into that memory, and we're going to talk about where you were when this memory took place. You can be very specific, like it could be a bar, or it could be a country, or it could be a city, or it doesn't really matter, but just maybe one word that ties up where you were when this memory took place. Have you got that in your mind?
Yes.
Now what you're going to do, now remember you've got name here, what you're going to do is at the top you're going to write place. And I'm going to show you another way to pick this up now if you want to. So you point out place, you can just bring your hand over like this and bring it up towards you. So rather than dropping your hand, you can just literally do this. And nobody picks up on anything, but now I'm in the same situation. I've got name in front of me. So what was the name again? It was Richard. So you're going to be writing Richard. So whatever the information was that the person gave you earlier, that's what you're going to be writing. So in this case, Richard. And you say, right, I think I've got it. You take that off, you roll it up into a ball, you drop it down on the table. And then you can put this here and you say, right, okay, I think I've got it. Where were you?
I was in Wakefield.
Wakefield, fantastic. And we'll do one final thing. We'll talk about the emotion that you felt when this memory took place. And you write down emotion in exactly the same way as you wrote it down at the very, very beginning. So you write down emotion, pick it up, turn it over again. So I'm looking at place. So now I'm going to write Wakefield. Now, once I've balled that up, there's two things I want to point out here. So I'm going to take this off again, ball it up and put it on the table. So what's really nice about this is that each one of these is correct in that on place, I'm going to have place, on emotion, I'm going to have emotion, and on name, I'm going to have name. But this is reset to do again.
Nice. Because
I've got emotion here. I know it's not on the sticky side, but that makes no difference. So just by putting this into my pockets, when I want to do this again, I'm in exactly the right situation to do it again. And then the nice thing, before I do the revelation, the nice thing about this, Pete, I've seen so many people use like a mental epic one-ahead style presentation. And the first two things that they think of are so open world. Think of any name in the world. Think of any location in the world. And then the final one is, and pick a card. And you know, it feels like it's weakened on that final phase. But with this, it's all tied into this memory presentation. It all makes sense because of how this deck works. You're able to get, revealing the emotion is just as strong as the other two revelations. But it's not about the cards. It's about the memory. We're just using the cards to help them visualize the memory that's happening. But then all you have to do, and what I do with this is I open all three of them because I don't keep track of them, to be honest. You could do, but I don't. So I just open them all towards me like this, and so that I can see all three of them. And then I very simply say, now, in this memory, there was a person there with you. I wrote down, what was the name of the person again? Richard. And I wrote down Richard right there. And I don't point out it's on the name. It's obvious. You don't have to point that out. And it took place somewhere. Where did it take place, Pete?
Wakefield.
Wakefield, there you go, Wakefield. And then finally, you felt an emotion. What was the emotion?
Wonder.
Wonder. And
that's great. Really, really nice. Really nice.
And it's just a post-it notepad in your pocket and a pen, and you're good to go.